I couldn't see any light. I couldn't look at light. I had an extreme migraine and eye sensitivity. So with that, it was like a wake-up call, like, hey man, basketball at LA Fitness doesn't pay the bills. You know what I'm saying? You don't have the same medical backing that these guys get, you know, and I'm out here playing hard, diving all on the ground for the ball. To get to any new point, you must make a new addition of some sort. So it has to be a sacrifice somewhere. We have finite time throughout the day, and it's up to each individual to decide what's the important thing that you want to do.
What is something that completely changed everything for you? Hey, this is Sid, Howard, and we are with Hashbridge on the Building at the Burbs podcast. This is our first episode, and today we have a very special guest. Very special. Regnault Sanders with Schoolconomy. So today, our first episode, we'll be talking about how he is building Schoolconomy in the Burbs.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I've been excited about this for a long time, so I'm glad we finally able to make it happen.
Yeah, rather sure. Super excited.
So I want this to be a wide open conversation. I know you guys got some questions for me, but I'm also gonna have some questions for you guys also. And you know, I really just want us to be able to delve into this and see what comes of it.
Yeah, let's bring it on. So starting up, what really rolled the ball with Schoolconomy? How did things get?
So early on, when I was in school, I had a part-time job, and I decided there that school is definitely work because we're doing a ton of work, but students never got paid for their work. And from there, I thought about is companies that are always looking for ways to engage with students because that youth has a greater lifetime value for a return on their investment. So I wanted to find a way to connect those two parties and in turn produce better life outcome for these students. So
Yeah, just really bridging the gap.
Right, absolutely. You know, and it took some incubating time for sure. But we were able to bring it to life and we've been making some strides since our conception.
I just kind of want to reel it back a little bit. So like, for those of them who aren't aware, kind of like what is Schoolconomy?
So thanks for bringing that up. Schoolconomy is a platform that empowers students to earn gift cards and experiences for their good grades. As time progressed, we've leaned into different things like social and emotional learning, financial literacy, and also AI literacy. As society is changing, we are standing at the precipice of new opportunities, and I really want to make sure that the youth is well equipped to take that on. I feel that our youth will continually be our future, and it's up to us to go ahead and set them up with the foundation to be successful as life progresses forward.
What were the first steps you took to really start building Schoolconomy?
Okay, so October 22nd of 2022, I decided I want to start this company. I watched a YouTube video that showed the steps you need to take to start a mobile app. So first I started with my Islamic wireframes. And then from there, I was able to give those wireframes to a developer, or not a developer, a UX UI designer on Fiverr. Fiverr is up. And it took a little time, sat on that, it took about a week. And then he delivered that. That was our first iteration. And then I was able to converge on another developer on Fiverr. And I had two technical advisors around me. and they were able to tell me what I needed to do, what language to build in. They were able to vet this offshore team to ensure that they were professional and proficient at their craft. And when I had that backing and was able to take those steps, we began developing the product. And I essentially played the role as a project manager kind of situation. And in the meantime, I started up a website. And I think that's important for anybody that's starting a company. The first thing you need to do before you spend any money or any time is go ahead and just throw up a website and start collecting emails and names. And that'll be a clear representation on if you have a good idea or if this is something worth pursuing.
For sure. Getting that, feedback is such a necessary thing for just any project. Being able to know whether this is actually, even if it's a valued prospect.
Absolutely. And I think at this point, especially with the velocity of web development and coding being easier than ever at this point, I think it's important for us to really do the market research. I feel in an entrepreneur space, a founder space, as founders, sometimes we get tunnel vision and only work on what we're good at and what we enjoy doing. But in reality, for a company to truly thrive, you have to do everything. And early on, you have to play those different roles. But if you can find a team and build a team where you all complement each other, I think that's amazing also. But every role needs to be done for that company to be successful, and you can't overlook that.
Specifically about that, what do you think are the best attributes for a team? What do you think makes a really good team? What do you look for when you're trying to add someone to your team? And what is kind of something is I don't really know if I wanted to add this person on my team? The good and bad.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad you said the good and bad. Resilience is number one. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how good someone is if they aren't resilient through the ups and downs. Startup is a roller coaster by design. If you're B2B, you're trying to cross the chasm and go from early adopters and first movers to the early majority. But then if you're in B2C, you're trying to get a flywheel started and nothing is sustainable until that flywheel is started. So with that being said, it's going to be a lot of ups and downs and lumps and, not knowing if the company is going to thrive on a daily basis. Things change so rapidly. I think another thing with things changing so rapidly, you really need to be fluid and versatile. And like I said, be open to do things that aren't necessarily your strong suit, that aren't necessarily the things you enjoy doing, but are absolutely mandatory for the success of the company. So as I'm looking for new prospects to join my team, I use my art of discernment and communication. One thing I've taken from some amazing founders before me is don't hire anybody on that you wouldn't enjoy working for. If I couldn't see myself working for that person, it wouldn't make sense for me to bring that person on. For us, it's important that as we hire, we continue to hire up and make that the trend. So when I'm looking to the next person to hire, I'm looking for somebody that's more skilled than myself, more intellectual than me across the board. Because we have to continue to go up because we don't want to get in the trend of hiring down. So if I feel like I'm an A player, I want to go get an A player, A+ player, A- at minimum. But at the end of the day, if you go in and say, okay, I'm willing to get a B player, then that B player say, okay, I'm okay with getting a C player, and then that C player say, hey, I want to get the D players because I want to continue to and once
you
that
sound like a bad precedent going forward.
Yeah. And honestly, it is counterproductive because I'm more productive with less of a team that's amazing then more of a team, that's okay.
So I know you mentioned like in the beginning, like you had to hire other people to develop the app. Like, how do you know to hire out versus just doing it yourself? Like, is it time, is it money? Like, how do you make that?
I think it's a little mix of both as we progress forward. For instance, with the hiring of the development team offshore to code the app, it was all about speed. I wanted to get to market as fast as possible, and I knew that was the best way. And it also allowed me to spend some capital and maintain my ownership in the company versus going out and getting a technical co-founder from ground zero and essentially going 50-50 or essentially in that realm, which is nothing wrong with that. But for me in my particular situation, I felt the best move for the company would be for me to execute on that.
Was the first expansion as far as like getting your first users? And like, if I had to guess, like, did you have to like partner with schools or like how did that work?
Yeah, so I'll go into the details on it. When I first started the platform, I felt like I was going to be able to go out and get schools to sign up because it was such an amazing idea. But nobody cares. Nobody cares about your idea. And in reality, they're not supposed to. That's the reason why you're the one with the vision and with that mission to essentially enlighten the world about that. So for me, when I called out to the first 500 schools, nobody bit. Nobody wanted it. Nobody was interested. And I decided, and these were all schools in Georgia and Alabama. So I decided to take a flight out to Dallas, Texas. I just went out on a whim and made it happen. Knocked on a couple doors out there. The first school I went to was Highland Park High School in Dallas. And then the second one that I went to was North Dallas High School. North Dallas High School welcomed us with open arms. I came in, spoke to a few of those classes, and was invited to come back at the end of the week to essentially be a sub teacher kind of situation where they had a sub in the classroom, but my presentation was just their entire class period.
Just real quick, why Dallas? Out of anywhere, out of all the 50 states, I mean, many countless states in the US, out of the entire world, why Dallas?
So Dallas is similar in the geography makeup that Atlanta is, considering that their northern and southern suburbs are similar to the northern and southern suburbs in Atlanta. Also, the population density is somewhat similar, but I also saw a huge opportunity because Dallas and Texas as a state as a whole really puts education to the forefront and look to be early adopters of education technology. So in the historic sense, the Southeast, especially Georgia, has been a laggard in adopting new technologies. Of course, we're looking to change that as time progresses, and it takes companies like Schoolconomy to make that happen. But dealing with the environment when we first kicked off in early 2023, it was a completely different ball game. Conversations about AI in schools weren't as big. Conversations about attendance and conversations about student rewards weren't as big at that point. But what I saw was an opportunity for us to ski to where the puck will be instead of skiing to where the puck is. And we've really set ourselves up in a great position to catch this next wave of ed tech funding that's coming through.
So yeah, after Dallas, then what was the next steps for the next customers?
Yeah, so when we got to Dallas, we were really welcomed with open arms out there. We were able to collaborate with the Texas Legends, the NBA G League affiliate of the Dallas Mavericks. That's really went a long way for us to be able to distribute tickets to students in the DFW, underserved students and students that are already in households that are bringing in good incomes, but just having everybody have a level playing field across the board has been great. With that, we're in 45 states right now. Our biggest hubs are Dallas, Texas, Atlanta, and Queens, New York, where we just opened up an office at Queens College Tech Incubator. That was within a partnership between us and the Queens Chamber of Commerce. So I'm really excited about what Neil Wagner has been able to do with us out there. And Jonathan Lynn, like I said, is running that office out there. So it's been amazing so far. And we just opened up that office a few weeks ago. So we're definitely looking to hire on new interns and things. So certainly continue sending in those applications.
Yeah, for sure. Another question I wanted to ask. Who really do you see as the customers? The students or the schools?
That's a great question. So our primary user is the student. And that's the biggest differentiating factor between us and everything else in the market. We built our platform with the student in mind first. Our competitors have built the platforms with the administrator in mind first. There's nothing wrong with that. But if we're looking forward to distributing this platform and having it be the new status quo, it has to be decided upon by the student, not the staff. Because at the end of the day, the student is setting the status quo. So it's important for us to always lean into keeping our ears and eyes open to the students that are in school today. What do you want? What do you like? What do you like to see? What type of rewards and redeemables would you like to see more so than anything? So what we've been able to do is honestly leverage relationships in different realms. So we've been collaborating with organizations, quasi-government organizations, also nonprofits. We've been working with schools, and we've been working with local and national brands to bring them onto our environment as redeemable rewards. So essentially, our flywheel is going pretty nicely at this point and continuing to expand.
Would you say that with the public schools, you tend to be dealing with school districts. Would you say that longer sales cycle is worth it?
I would say so, to an extent, but considering the speed and velocity that life is going right now, it's all up in the air, because of our success in the commercial space. That's really kept us afloat and kept a lot of opportunities coming our way. And in turn, that's honestly led to most of our deals is just them being able to see the proof and the social proof of what we're doing from the students who have signed up without their institution being onboarded. So continuing to grow in that realm will produce more clients for us on the software sales side.
Kind of talk about when you started to really see Schoolconomy really expand. I know you mentioned the first kind of growth in Dallas, but when you started really seeing it, what was that moment?
Yeah, it was a couple of different moments. The first one, of course, was getting those first 50 users. That was exciting for me. Once I made it back from Dallas, we finally got a call back from Charles Drew High School in Riverdale, Georgia. We did a free pilot with them where we came out and did a pizza party, brought a DJ out, had shirts, hoodies, shorts, hats, all kind of things for giveaways. We had watches from Divine Time and Watches that gave students the opportunity to have their first classic timepiece. So I was excited about that element. From there, the next big break was, so when we did that rollout, we got 1,000 students in one day. Really? When we rolled out at Charles Drew High School. So that was exciting for us. Time progressed, we grew, our name started buzzing, and then I decided for our go-to-market approach that we should really utilize the media and news media specifically, just because it's a feel-good story and actually making an impact in the community. And we reached out to a few different outlets. I was actually riding down 75 on the way to Hatch Bridge, And I saw an Atlanta News First van next to me in traffic. And I told the guy, hey, roll your window down. I got a story. How do I tell somebody about it? And he said, yeah, email this and call this number. So then I called the number. They told me how to send my stuff in. I sent my stuff in. And they didn't tell me that they were going to pick it up, but they ended up picking it up and just telling a little brief story about it. So after that, a few months later, we got picked up by Fox 5 News. And that was really a huge explosion for us because when Fox 5 picked us up in Atlanta, they did 2 stories on us in Atlanta. And then they also distributed those stories throughout the syndicated network. So that took us to other markets without us even being there. Now, the beautiful thing about that, as I've been going through the idea maze, different things have been my focus at different times. So for a certain amount of time, like I said, it was, I'm only trying to sell to schools. Then when schools didn't bite, I said, I want to just find a way to go directly to the consumer and get students on the platform on their own because they decide what was cool anyway. So as we began to get those students and we started getting those news features, then schools started reaching out to us. So it changed our whole dynamic from cold outreach to an inbound marketing approach. And that was really a shifting factor for us. And since then, I think the biggest thing is just seeing the data that we're collecting over time and seeing how this is truly influencing students to do better and keeping them motivated in the classroom.
So it sounds like for your growth, like it was really a lot of just word of mouth and people enjoying the product that they was coming.
Yeah, certainly. And I think for any product to truly see that growth, it has to have a product-centered value for the user to truly see and engage with and have a reason to want to come back. That's something you really can't skip. It's no amount of marketing dollars that can overshadow that element.
Another thing I wanted to ask, what is your biggest enjoyment running Schoolconomy?
I would say the success stories.
Same.
That's the biggest thing for me. Whenever I hear that somebody did a little better in school, enjoyed one of the gift cards, I love when students have opportunity to get the player spotlight, and then I can see their friends reposting it and cheering them on and saying congratulations, and their families getting involved, saying congrats on your placement as a player of the week and things like that. Like, that's huge. And it may be the small things that are the biggest, because at the end of the day, that's what we set out to do. So each individual student that's able to, do a little better or get some recognition is big for us.
Is there any like specific success stories you want to talk about that kind of like was like, wow, like that really like touched?
Yeah, at Charles Drew High School, they had some history of having some good athletics teams. But before we came in, they were struggling on the football field and the basketball court. And once we were able to onboard those students to Schoolconomy, this past year, they had a winning season on the football team, did really amazing, had a ton of players be all region. And when I came into their locker room just to show love to them at one of their pep rallies, I overheard a guy say when I was leaving out the locker room, he said, "It feels good to be winning. It feels good to win." And it showed all it takes is a change of mindset. Because these were the same players, same coaching staff, same ability that you had last year. But it's about really having that school pride and having that pride in oneself. And that's really what we're looking to produce, a better school climate where a person is thinking forward to, hey, I'm about to redeem a gift card at the end of the day for my good grades. So I'm gonna study a little bit harder. I'm gonna be a little bit nicer to my parents, and everything in between, because all of this adds up.
So, with everything that has happened now, what do you see as the path forward?
The path forward for us is really utilizing AI to leverage my personal skill sets and also things that I'm not really great at. And being able to utilize AI will really help us progress forward with the velocity of iteration also. So I think that's huge. Another element is really leaning into our media production as a company. So being able to, of course, leverage those AI tools to be able to produce more media and get more marketing out into our environment. And also, we're going to continue to build on our content library of social and emotional learning, quizzes, financial literacy quizzes, and AI literacy quizzes. Right now, we have an amazing quiz with Blemish Wellness that is a mental health and wellness quiz for students to engage with. Because like I said, we're really focused on producing better life outcomes more so than anything. So learning those topics can go a long way for these students. And sometimes I admit it's things that we have as quizzes that I feel like adults could really grow and build from. So with that being said, I think we're on the right path. We just want to continue to do what works and do it over and over and over and over and over again. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel at this point. I think we reinvented the few things that we needed to reinvent, but now it's more so about repetition. And that's what I've seen from being in business. We just hit 2 years. Being around and surviving is the most important. And then beyond that, you give yourself an opportunity to thrive. But with that, I speak to, as time progresses, it's conversations that I have that have been not right now, but have converged on business 18 months later. So staying in consistent communication, also signaling to the marketplace the successes that you're seeing can go a long way, and just stay resilient, and that produces your opportunity to win the longer you're in the game.
And from a founder perspective, I guess if you were to go back 2 years when you first started, what would you tell yourself?
I wouldn't tell myself anything. And I say this because I feel like in a lot of cases, if we knew how tedious it would be in some of the rough moments, you wouldn't do it. And I think the beauty of the startup is being in a space where this was my first tech startup. I've been an entrepreneur and in that space for pretty much most of my life. But coming into tech, it was a lot of things I didn't know, and I'm glad I didn't. But now that I've learned them, it's a different ball game. And for me, the learning curve wasn't that bad, but I'm glad I went through it, because now I feel like I'm a solid tech founder at this point through my trials and tribulations. So for us, man, it's really important to just keep doing what's been working. Now it's just about duplicating that and doing it over and over again, because
Consistency.
That's what it's all about. You know, we got the formula. Ford Motor Company just kept pushing out the same car. It kept pushing that Model T out. Just keep pushing it out. Just keep pushing it. See what happens. You know, and it can transition into anything. But we're gonna keep doing what works and also keeping our ears and eyes open for what else is needed in the space. Where we just went multi-product a few months back. So Schoolconomy College Connect, essentially connecting students with post-graduation opportunities, streamlining the process of college application for students, and converging on working with some technical college systems and things like that, some coding boot camps also, just to give students as many opportunities that are out there. And really the main thing is just letting people know that they exist.
My life, some people just tell me like, don't put all your eggs in the basket, but it's like, you kind of should, right? Like, you kind of should like focus primarily on one thing so that you can excel at.
So I'll say it's important at your age, especially in college, making things happen. Try different things, test out different ways that you can get creative, make new friends, build new relationships. And I think as you start to get older, then you gotta zero in what is the primary thing I'm gonna focus on. And of course, still have your hobbies and other things that you do. But I would say it is important to focus on one thing because that's where I saw the biggest transition in my life. In reality, I went from doing the music and in the midst of doing music, doing photography, videos, web design, web development, coaching chess, playing in chess tournaments, playing basketball, playing in semi-pro basketball tournaments, doing all of these things. And it's like, yeah, you're good at all of these things, but are you really breaking through the noise? This is actually taken away from my productivity when it comes to Schoolconomy. Because when I got poked in the eye, I couldn't see any light. I couldn't look at light. I had an extreme migraine and eye sensitivity. So with that, it was like a wake-up call, like, hey, man, basketball at LA Fitness doesn't pay the bills. You know what I'm saying? You don't have the same medical backing that these guys get, you know, and I'm out here playing hard, diving all on the ground for the ball, you know, but that's just how I do. Like, I'm a go hard, and that's how I see this business, you know, and we keep scoring in terms of revenue, but this is a game that doesn't have quarters. Well, I guess it does have quarters to an extent, but it's no timeouts. It's never ending. It's continually moving forward. You know, it's no breaks. And then this is a game that's, you can do it for a lifetime, you know, versus anything in the athletic space. You got a hot period and that's about it. For this, I'm glad that I ended up falling into this. I would say haphazardly because I never planned on being a startup founder as a kid, but I knew I would find an avenue to produce change in the world.
Just one last thing before we wrap up. What has, I think, been your biggest lesson from anything really? What is something that really, I guess, changed how you saw things? What is something that completely changed everything for you?
Ideas come a dime a dozen. Don't try to hide your idea. Don't hold on to your idea so tight because you'll actually suffocate it by trying to do that. It's important to talk about your idea because if somebody can take your idea and do it better than you, you weren't the person to do it anyway. So get out, have those conversations, speak about your idea. Of course, not your secret sauce, but you can always talk about high level, your idea, what you're doing, what you're building, because insight and input can come from anywhere. And you have to be able to open yourself up to that for those opportunities of growth.